All right. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. We're back for another live here. I'm going to run it down. Answer all of your questions on the AMA like we do every Monday and Wednesday night. Lots of super chats already here on the YouTube, so we'll definitely get into those. Man, what a weekend here. I don't know if you guys bought the dip. The dippy just kept dipping dip. I ran out of money dip. Yeah, man, what so we saw at the end of last week, bond yields started dropping pretty significantly. We talk about a lot of stuff here when it comes to global macroeconomics and what to look for. We were seeing a lot of pressure there from Japan, and the potential sell-off of the reverse carry trade. People anticipating that. A lot of people were moving from risk-on assets into risk-off assets, and that's what causes bond rates to drop or treasury rates to drop. So the way that you can think about this is the higher treasury rates go, they're trying to incentivize people to hold treasuries. So the more volume or purchasing of treasuries there is, that is people buying treasuries. They can drop the yield and people are still going to be buying them. So big move at the end of last week from risk on to risk off. We saw, the stock market start to sell off here domestically in the US. The Nikkei in Japan also sold off pretty substantially. We saw that drop about 7% yesterday evening, and Sunday, where are we at today? What do we got on the Nikkei? It's currently up back to where it was, almost 7% up off of the lows. So that's kind of what I'm anticipating. I think you're going to see a rally here. I know a lot of people are telling you, we're going lower and the world's ending and all that. A lot of the flashing indicators that were problems for me have subsided. A lot of the things that had me concerned about the market no longer really in place. So I think we're positioned for a pretty significant rally here across all markets. Risk on. My anticipation is we could see the Fed come out and lower interest rates. If they were to do that, it would be full send. Everybody would move from risk off back to risk on. I don't know about grandpa or Uncle Warren, whatever you want to call him there. He still sat over on the sideline with $334 billion in treasuries. I think Berkshire's probably going to issue a stable coin with the amount of treasuries that they have. But yeah, just interesting to me, a lot of people scared. Fear is, back to like 17 on the fear to greed index. Great time to purchase, not financial advice, but I can tell you for me, I think personally, really good time to buy when it comes to risk on assets. So that includes crypto. With bond yields where they went to, there's a lot of pressure that was relieved there in Japan. I think people will re-leverage now. They'll probably start to borrow more yen from the Bank of Japan, come back into markets. A lot of people, I think, were anticipating, that the Bank of Japan would have to raise interest rates, and they still might, but in the short term, they're not going to need to now that we've seen the bond yields kind of come down where they're at. So, kind of a whipsaw in the market here. I think you're going to see a pretty big recovery. I know a lot of people, again, fearing that we're going to see a big move to the downside. I think you could see a big melt up now that some of the pressure has been relieved. But the reckoning is coming. The global credit call is coming. There will be an unwind of the reverse carry trade at some point. I just don't think it's right now. So, once 10-year treasury in Japan gets back over 1.5, that's kind of the scary zone for me. The yen strengthened against the dollar. They're in a good position there in Japan. I don't think that they're going to have to raise interest rates again, like I talked about before, I think they could kick it 90 days. I think maybe they're going to get the full 90 days at this point. Things could change very quickly, though, right? If you saw a big move higher across the board in all markets, the Nikkei included, and the U.S. stock market and crypto, like I said, if the Fed were to lower interest rates, I think you would see that. I think you would see people move in droves back into risk on very quickly, and that's kind of what I'm anticipating. With seeing what the Nikkei's done here, they've recovered 2,000 points already today, almost back up 7% in 24 hours from the initial sell-off that we saw Sunday evening. So whipsaw in the market. Hopefully I don't want to say hopefully you bought the dip. Again, not financial advice, but I think a lot of people are anticipating further downside, and I don't know that we're going to get it. So it's where I'm currently at with things. We'll see. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. Not the end all be all. I'm just some guy on the internet that has an opinion, just like lots of other people out there. For some reason, people are nice enough to want to listen to what I have to say. Anyway, I think that's going to happen and be good for digital assets. XRP, XLM, HBAR, Algorand, a lot of the utility driven assets, I think could see some upside. XRP's held up pretty good in comparison to a lot of those with the downward pressure on the market. And I think it could just, it's poised for another move higher as things kind of expand here and we do see a move back to risk on. So that's where I'm at. Again, market dynamics change, kind of change your tune. But again, there was, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, I said Japan could probably kick it 90 days. It looks like they may get the full 90 days now that we've seen this pullback here. But we'll go ahead and hop into the questions. Again, run it down here in the chat. We go over here on TikTok. We got you on X and YouTube. Appreciate you guys being here. And go ahead and hop into it. We have TLC 2082. They say, appreciate you. I'm sure you've said before, but can you talk about the security of custody at Anchorage and DWP? Is it your keys, your crypto kind of safe? Yeah, so it's an FBO account. They are segregated, bankruptcy remote, insured accounts for clients there with Digital Wealth Partners at Anchorage. And the underlying key against that wallet are on a proprietary blockchain. They're never seen by a person. They are encrypted and then sharded. And then the shards are held across HSMs or hardware security modules in level 4 facilities at multiple points across the globe. Randomized locations, and then the only time that those are pulled back together are to execute a transaction, and they're never actually all the way pulled back together. It's actually pretty ingenious the way that Anchorage security system actually works to be able to execute transactions on public blockchains. They have a very robust security protocol. Assets move around within their ecosystem. So anyway, extremely safe. They're insured by Lloyd's of London. They have a $100 million crime insurance policy, which is very different than like Fireblocks or some of the other people that tout that they have insurance. Most other people that have insurance on stuff, it's on the physical infrastructure. You want to ask if they have crime insurance. And so that means if there was a hack or a breach, those assets would actually be covered and the people that own those assets would be insured in that circumstance. And that's what crime insurance is. Most people do not have that. Anchorage does. And that's one of the main reasons we partnered with them. Again, just because of how secure their protocol is, and all the other components of way that they've segregated clients' assets there. So super robust security. Yeah, extremely excited to be partnered with them and appreciate all that they do. So hopefully that answers your question on the security for Anchorage and Digital Wealth Partners. Appreciate the super chat. We got Crypto Sponge. It's an interesting name. They say a big thank you to Matt Schneider for personally spending time with me to ensure I got into the income fund. This team's incredible. See y'all in Vegas. Awesome, brother. Super excited to have you there working with our team and to be able to get you interest and returns on your XRP, partnered with Digital Wealth Partners. We got that across the line last Friday. My team has been incredible getting people's assets into the fund to be able to produce returns on their XRP in the most secure way that's available right now. There's not anybody else on the market providing anything comparable to what we're providing. The level of security and no counterparty risk, it's just next level. The way that my team's orchestrated this and we've brought it together. So if that's of interest to anybody here, and you do want to earn some returns on your XRP or your XLM, now do XLM2. We don't have the fund ready to go yet, but we do custody XLM. They're Digital Wealth Partners at Anchorage. That's kind of next on the docket here, is to be able to earn returns. And the way that we structure this, it's agnostic. So it's not like a DeFi protocol where you have to have a certain asset. The way that we've structured this, you could put up pretty much anything as collateral and be able to generate a return on it. So again, super excited, impressed by my team, super proud, and appreciate the the kind words. Man, we've got Katie Girl. Hey, ma'am. She says, how are the ETFs able to launch Tuesday? Why are some launching and not all? Also, don't trust Powell to cut rates. Thoughts? We'll see. I think Trump's really put him in a position where the Fed's going to have to cut interest rates in the near future. I don't know if it's tomorrow or not. We do have one ETF that I'm aware of that's a two times leveraged XRP ETF that goes live tomorrow. So it's not the spot ETFs, unusual, but that one is going to be live tomorrow, and it will be an institutional product that people can invest in. 2 times leverage to the upside. So maybe people are going to be making a lot of money on that one. Just depends on where the price goes in the short term here. But yeah, very interesting to see that one's the first one to go live. So there's different types of ETFs. They have futures, and this one's a 2 times leverage futures. And then you have the spot ETFs. All the spot ETFs, I think, will be approved at the same time. But these other ones that are different financial products and different ways to structure it, I think that's, why things are going live separately of one another. But there is an anticipation that all of these will get approved in the very near future. We do have Paul's confirmation being voted on in the near future. And I think once he's in, they'll light it up. They'll green light everything and it'll be good to go. But yeah, I think Powell could cut rates with the markets down. You just have a lot of pressure on banks. You have a lot of pressure on other people right now where they're not generating returns and interest rates are high. It's hard to get liquidity from things. And now you're not getting returns in markets or in treasuries. And if they don't do something to ease economic conditions like lower interest rates, probably, going to have some people start going bankrupt. And that causes us to go into a recession. And then you have a deflationary recession, which is it's not good. Everything's deflationary right now. We've seen a big pressure release off of price appreciation for risk on assets and things across the board. Things at the store are cheaper, real estate's cheaper, all these things are cheaper. So for them to lower interest rates now, they can definitely do it because they're not fighting inflation. So I think they're going to. I think you're going to see the Fed rate cut. I don't know how imminent that is, but I do think it's in the near future. We've got ROT Corp. They say, Mr. Claver, it's days like today that test my faith to say the course. I still bought more, but I need some words of hope and encouragement. Up and to the right, man. Like I said, I think we're about to see expansion. I think you're going to see the Russell 2000 turn the corner. I think you're going to see the Fed lower interest rates. I think you're already seeing that start to be priced in. The Nikkei has already rebounded. I think that we're in for the blow off top before the meltdown. I think we're going to melt up before we melt down. I wasn't sure which way that was going to happen, but now that we've seen the pressure released, And, the pivot that I think is coming, Japan won't have to raise interest rates immediately. That eases the market's concerns and conditions. People will re-leverage because that's what they do. I think it's stupid, but they will do it. They will borrow more yen from the Bank of Japan, and they will swap that for dollars and put it back to work in the markets to be able to gain returns as we move up into the right and as treasury yields start to increase again as people move from risk off to risk on. So it's a balancing act, soft landing, or whatever you want to call it. I think they're doing wild to watch this whole deal unfold. I do think we're going to get the meltdown eventually, but I think that's going to come after a euphoric rise to the upside. So that's my anticipation in the short term. I think we're ready for the rocket here in crypto. He also says, Mr. Claver, thank you for the 2 super chats, by the way. He says, is the dump solely a result of the tariffs, or could something else be driving it too? It's the reverse carry trade. Way too many people are focused on tariffs. It is not the tariffs. Is this one of those next dominoes in the domino theory? It is the main domino theory in the domino theory. Japan reverse carry trade is the domino that kicks everything off. And that is what was causing pressure on the markets. But again, now that we've seen, like if you look at the JPY 10-year yield, it's back down to like 1.1, way down. It's like a 30% reduction from where it was just last week. And again, I think you're going to see people re-leverage, borrow more yen, put it into work in the market. If we did see, interest rates drop here in the U.S., big move to the upside across all risk-on assets, including crypto. And then at some point in the near future, again, like I said 3-4 weeks ago, I think, Japan could kick it 90 days. I think they might get closer to the full 90 days sometime between now and summertime. I think you could see things, go to the downside, but I think at the short term, we're going to get one last big move to the upside. Daniel Trent says, Matthew said that around 20% of allocation for the 2 present funds. Do you know the max allocation for the yield-bearing fund that will be available later? So the way that things are currently structured for our clients, everybody is a corporation that works with us. They hold their assets either in a trust or in a company or in an IRA. If you are holding your assets in a corporation, an LLC or C Corp or any of those, if you're investing more than 40% of your investable assets into one investment, you become an investment company. And you have to register with the SEC and do a bunch of other stuff. So the way that we've seen most people structure their investments in 2 funds is they put 40% in one and 40% in the other, and been able to, generate a return, compound their XRP, and then the other one they're able to get cash flow from the income fund. So not sure what you're talking about, 20% allocation for the 2 present funds. We got 20 million in one and about 10 million in the other, so about 30 million deployed. That number's down a little bit today with prices dropping, but as XRP appreciates, the allocation that we currently have could eat up the full allocation that we have in both the funds. It just depends. They start to see some reduced returns over $250 million, but it's not much. It's like basis points that they start losing. It's not full percentages. So, and you're going to have some dynamics change in the market. If there's more liquidity in the market, they may not lose any of those basis point returns either. So that's my anticipation, kind of all boats rise type deal. And as we see more liquidity move into crypto across the board, both of our partners that generate the returns with us will continue to be able to perform at the same level or better, depending on how things go. We have We got Rippler FX. They say, thoughts on Muny protocol. Is it legit? Excuse me. So I actually talked about this with my CIO, Matt Schneider, who's our chief investment officer, earlier today. One, I don't think you can participate in it if you are domestic here to the U.S. Could be legit. No idea. I'm always concerned about how they're producing returns. You're also going to have to give up your XRP. So you're not going to retain ownership of it like you would with our situation. You are going to give it to a counterparty. If they go bankrupt, you are a creditor. You will lose your XRP. They will owe it back to you in the bankruptcy. We've already seen what's going on with Celsius and Voyager and FTX and all that, and how long that's taken. We're now, 3 years later, and nobody has their stuff back. Or if you do, they got it in cash, and there was a significant move in the market where you lost out on a bunch of gains. So that's the risk you're taking. We have all the documentation to mitigate that risk of loss. We don't have counterparty risk on the way that we've set things up. We continue to hold the assets. You're able to see the assets. They're reflected in your account. You have the insurance. It's an institutional custody. There's a lot of protections for the way that we've structured the returns versus counterparties. We want to be that blend, right? Like, there's a lot of assurances that you get from traditional finance. Things that are good. You have beneficiaries on your account. Your spouse is on your account. You have insurance. You have segregated assets that are bankruptcy remote. Whereas in DeFi, like, cool, you can get in and out fast and you're liquid and there's some other benefits to that. But as soon as things go bad, like, there's no protections. And most of these are securities offerings. You are putting up collateral and giving it to somebody else on the contingency that they are going to pay you some type of return on your investment. That is a security. It meets all the prongs of the Howey test. So we'll see how this stuff gets regulated in the future, but I think most things are going to have a wrapper on them. And we're actually building software to be able to provide that for people, and looking at how we can do it in a regulated way, and walk that line of, again, providing all the benefits of DeFi, but in a regulated, like, secure, beneficial way for most people. So not saying Muny protocol is not legit. It does not have a track record. The other reason we partnered with the fund, people that we partnered with, is they have 5 and 6 year track records where we can see their returns. They're audited, fully transparent and compliant. They've done all the things in the right way. Their worst month, on the income fund is -1%. They've generated somewhere between 21 and 37% over the last 5 years. Not saying that you'll get that on your XRP, because there's some other ways, like they're only able to issue like an 80% line of credit against it. They never trade the full line of credit. So what we're looking at realistically, somewhere between 10 and 20% returns for our clients on their XRP. And again, it's not a yield. So that fluctuates. This quarter, it could be 9%. Next quarter, it could be 2%. The next quarter, it could be 5%. And then the last quarter, it could be 4%, right? And that would be 20% over the year. And that's, again, kind of what they produced based on their track record. So anyway, we'll see. I guess is my answer on Muny. There's been a lot of things that have come and gone. But we are looking into it. Anything like that, please mention it. We will go do due diligence on it and see if it's something that we can participate in or involve in the way that we structure things for our clients. But again, I don't think you're able to participate if you're a U.S. client, and I don't have a visible track record to say they're going to be around or what type of returns you're going to get there on a consistent basis. And I know I'm like biased, right? So take it with a grain of salt. I think what we've done is a bit more buttoned up and secure, but again, not as liquid. So there's trade-offs for everything. Over here on TikTok, we got what ETF is going live tomorrow. It starts with a T. It was like to electricity, to nonium, something like that. It's a 2x leverage ETF for XRP. This person says, hey, Jake, why do you think XRP is going to crash after the upside? Never heard you say that before. I didn't say I think XRP is going to crash. I just said I think the markets are going to crash after the upside. So, I think XRP will continue up and to the right because I think you're going to continue to see ETFs rolled out on it. I think you're going to see the price move. I think you're going to see adoption. I think you're going to see regulation. But yeah, I don't know that you're going to get. I think the price we just got was a really good option on XRP. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. It could go lower, but I don't think so personally. Honest Aim, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for the super chat. They say, hey, Jake, we have more guests coming to April 23rd for the Beyond Broke Mastermind meetup to meet you for the first time. Very cool. Should be exciting. Thanks again for all you do for us little guys, custody, yield products, LLCs, etc. Thanks. Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much for the support and being part of the community. We do have more in real life meetups than any other community in the XRP family. I can guarantee that. I know for a fact. So if that's something you're interested in, we do have those here in Dallas and we have them across the US. We've done Vegas. We've done other locations, Oklahoma City, Arkansas. We did one in Florida. We need to do one up there in New York or on the East Coast, and then something else in California for people. We've also done Lake Tahoe. So anyway, if that's something you're interested in, you can go check it out, beyondbroke.com. We have a Discord and a website, provide financial education and business resources, do private deals there in the group that you're only going to get access to if you're in Carbon 1 or higher. And if you want to go check it out for a month and see if it's something you're interested in, you just put in the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized, just like it's spelled up here, number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group, all capitalized. So you do like social, or you can do Carbon 1 and get the free month there. We got DKNY767. They say a 2x long ETF tied to XRP futures launches on NASDAQ Archaea tomorrow. Thoughts? That looks like a great time to launch it to me. I think they're going to make a lot of money. I feel like things are about to move, like I've said before, up and to the right pretty hard now that we've seen some steam get let off the market here and pressure from the reverse carry trade is no longer imminent. I think people are going to re-leverage. We could see a Fed pivot and a cut. And if that's the case, it's going to be full send up and to the right for almost everything. So, yeah, good timing. Here's that code one more time for people. If you are interested in joining the mastermind, it's Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO there at beyondbroke.com. Would love to have you guys there in the group. If you want to be part of a great group with aligned culture and interest, making sure that they're ready for price appreciation on their digital assets and setting themselves up for success. Let's see here. Yo, Jake, Addison Garrett says, I bought Ripple liquid shares during Link 2's special promotion for non-accredited investors. Oh, no. I'm sorry, Addison. They say, which we all know they advertised as actual shares, not liquid shares. Are those shares worth... I don't know how that's going to work out. So here's the deal. We run 506B Reg D funds inside the mastermind. And we're able to do that and involve non-accredited investors or sophisticated investors. We can have up to 35 non-accredited sophisticated investors on those deals for 2 reasons. We have a pre-existing business relationship, and we provide financial education and business resources there in the group that we believe allows you to understand the risks associated with the investment and be sophisticated in your ability to be able to participate. Link 2 did neither of those. They marketed it publicly, which is illegal. And they marketed that you were getting direct shares, which is not the case. So I don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of things changing over there right now. I think they're trying to get it right. We'll see what ends up shaking out. I know a lot of people are very upset about that situation. If you did that and you were not accredited, I think you're going to potentially have some problems. I don't know that they're going to be able to honor those investments. You can't offer the same option twice. So like to offer a 506B and allow people to participate on your 506C, the material terms of the deal have to be different. They can't be the exact same deal terms. And based on what was alleged in the litigation from the gentleman that was working there from Forge, they did not do that. I don't know. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm not saying that anybody committed any crimes whatsoever. Just relaying information that I've seen. I think it's going to be difficult for them to honor the non-accredited investors on those deals. So I would, reach out to your attorney and have them contact them. Hate that for you. But again, we do this through the mastermind group. Can't talk about exactly what we invest in. They are most of the time fintech companies that like and love. They're in the group, and we've done not anywhere near as many deals as Link to. I think we've done a total like 16 deals over 2 years with the participants there in the group. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out. If you're part of the group, we can talk about what we're investing in. We've got Jay Ballin. They say, hey, Jake, I purchased the LLC service and wanted to ask your team a few questions before I initiate the setup. I live in California and realize there's minimal benefit to my situation. There are ancillary benefits outside of the tax issues that you're probably discussing there. So you do have to file reciprocity with the state of California and let them know that you do have that Wyoming LLC. It's pass-through taxation. However, you do get the anonymity benefit versus filing there in California. You do get the benefit of the regulation around digital assets there in Wyoming that's not going to be in California. Now, the only benefit that you're not going to receive is the state tax of 0. You're still going to be subject to that of the state tax of California. However, because you have an LLC, you'll be able to use the funds or the income or the capital gains that you sell or create inside that LLC. If you're spending it in certain ways, you'll be able to mitigate state and federal taxes. So there's still a lot of benefit to having the LLC established there in Wyoming, even if you are a California resident. And we do file the reciprocity piece for you. My recommendation, if you don't like taxes, would be to get the hell out of California. Unfortunately, there in New York, probably not ideal if you're looking to mitigate taxes over the long term. I know, sometimes it's not a choice. You have a home, you have family, you have friends, you have a life there in wherever you are living. And sometimes it's not possible for you to uproot yourself or move from that jurisdiction. But there are still many, many benefits to establishing a LLC in Wyoming, even if you do reside in California. And again, our team's happy to have that discussion with you if you want to reach out to Jonathan, who would have been the one to set up the LLC for you. Let's see here. We got Jeff. Jeff, thank you for the super chat, brother. Cheers. He said, I'm ready to get rolling with all of it. LLC, XRP returns, etc. Need a trust created as well. Can you guys handle that part also? Yes, we sure can. We work with many estate planners. If you want a domestic asset protection trust, if you want a living trust, if you want a Cook Islands trust, if you want a dynasty trust, if you want an insurance trust, if you want a sales deferral trust, there are lots of things that we can set up that may or may not be a benefit or a fit for you. Asset protection trust is what we most often see for digital assets in Wyoming or South Dakota. And yeah, definitely have the people that can establish that for you. We've done more of those than any other group in the U.S. for digital assets. So we'd love to have that conversation. If that's something you're interested in, you can just reach out to info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see. Sioux Fall, 96. Are you in Sioux Falls, South Dakota? They say, where are we in the RCT domino theory? Still early. We're still before the Japan carry trade sells off. But I do think you could see a significant move higher in treasury yields. And again, people moving back to risk on in the short term here, which will actually bolster the value of XRP. I think a lot of people are anticipating, blockchain backer included, that it's going to go to like $10 to $13 and then off a cliff. I think they're probably going to be caught off guard. Some people are going to be upset that they're going to liquidate that early. Still confident in this year that we could see 4 digits on XRP. So again, it's contingent on specific events playing out. We need stablecoin regulation. Tether's probably involved in that. I think that they're likely to get sanctioned. They've said that they're not going to comply with MiCA or U.S. regulation when it comes to stablecoin bill. Supposedly they're going to be launching a separate stablecoin that is compliant. Like, seems sketchy. Anyway, still a little bit early, but it is happening. We saw, some of this, a lot of this sell-off was predicated on the reverse carry trade, but the whole thing didn't unwind. Enough steam came off that I think we're going to see moves higher here in the short term. Let's see here. We got Dozer. Jake. Worth it to continue buying XLM plus HBAR and HODL. I think both of those are fantastic options when it comes to digital assets and have a significant ROI over the next 5 or 10 years. We'll have many options to be able to generate returns on them, many of which we will be creating at Digital Wealth Partners. So yeah, absolutely. Not financial advice, but personally, I think those are great investments. Kyle, thank you for the super chat, brother. Oh, it's Kai. Excuse me, Kai Simmons. Misspoke. Hi, Jake. You're the man. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate the compliment. I look forward to your Q&As. Just started my crypto journey in December. Very cool. Crazy story, actually. I only hold 5K XRP and 12K HBAR. Don't be telling people how much you own, Kai. Is that enough to help me with trying to retire early in 5 years? If you're going to hold it for that long, yeah. I think that you could see easily 5 digits on XRP in that time frame, $10,000 plus. When XRP and Codius are moving and settling the derivatives market, yeah, $10,000 to $50,000 XRP. And I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's going to be overnight. They're going to flip a switch," and just don't listen to those people. There are actual things that need to happen, real world events that need to play out for those type of numbers to exist. But they can exist. The math is there. But it is predicated on certain things happening. When I was at CoinAlts in 2023, which is an institutional event that's put on by Cole Freed and Malin, who works with MG Stover and many other institutional players when it comes to managing hedge funds and crypto hedge funds and RIAs and all the stuff that we deal with and partners that we have. Brad Garlinghouse spoke on stage at the keynote with Jack McDonald. And, he talked about the early days at Ripple. And he said that there was 3 projects that they were working on. And he wrote the Peanut Butter Manifesto. And basically don't spread yourself too thin. You need to focus on one thing and one thing only for an extended period of time before you move into other verticals. And so they chose payments. But the other 2 things that Ripple was working on when he first showed up, one was Codius, which is a smart contract platform. And the other one was Global ID. Global ID has since separated themselves from Ripple, and they are agnostic. They want to be a solution that provides digital identity across multiple chains. We've had conversations with them. And then the other piece is Codius. Codius is still there. If you want to go to codius.io, go check it out. They say they're in beta and to expect dragons, whatever that means. So that's what I would be waiting for. For the amounts that you've stated here, 5K and 12K, it's going to take a little bit longer to be able to generate income on those, and then also for them to be enough value that you can retire. But I do think that it is possible if you're willing to wait. I think that you're in a good position here in 2025, and you will see substantial price appreciation on things. But if you really can hold out for 5 years, I think you're going to be in an absolutely fantastic position to have passive income and be able to step away from whatever your vocation is and enjoy your life. So thank you for the super chat. Let's see here. We've got a couple more super chats. We got Group 1 Gavin, legend. Yeah, I don't know if you guys were here for the story, but he's probably, yeah, it's funny. Thank you for the kind words. He says, met a lovely lady recently who lost her life savings on FTX. Oh my gosh. Told her about XRP and suggested to follow you. Hope she has had an XRP win. That's very good of you. Man, there's been so many people that have been affected by FTX and Voyager and Celsius. We've had many clients that lost. We have some clients that lost their money on Mt. Gox years ago. It's just been so many scams and schemes out there that have caused people to lose their life savings, put them in a position where they've had to completely start over with their investments. And again, you just don't get a lot of those protections here with crypto like you would in regulated markets. That's also why there's the upside, right? Unfortunate. I think you did the right thing. I think you're trying to help her out, which is awesome. And I think a lot of people in the XRP community are just like that. They're genuine, good people that really do want other people to win with them. It's not a zero-sum game like most people play. And people genuinely want other people to be in a better position. And then that's why they share the information that they have. I don't think it's because we don't get anything from it. Like if you buy XRP, cool. Or if you don't buy XRP, cool. It's not like $500, $1,000, $10,000, $1 million. Even if it's $1 million, it's not going to make the price run up. Okay, that's not why people are doing it. They genuinely want other people to win with them, so that they're not alone and they can change other people's lives around them. There's an opportunity here that you're not going to see again for at least another 3 or 4 generations until the money system changes again. And even then, I don't think it's going to be to the same level that you can get access to now. For retail to have access to these assets before institutions use them, very unusual, unheard of, actually. So kudos to you for trying to help her out. And again, be praying for her. Sorry to hear about FTX. We got Pickle Bean. It's an interesting name. Does individual net worth affect eligibility for institutional onboarding? No. We can provide institutional grade custody for anybody as long as they have at least 100,000 XRP. If you want to bring us $250,000 in cash and buy XRP, we can do that too. That's kind of the minimum in cash. And then if you do have digital assets and they're diversified, we're going to be looking at, $500,000 in current value of digital assets. But as long as you meet one of those 3 criteria, happy to work with you on the institutional custody side of things. And you do not have to be accredited or have a net worth of anything outside of digital assets. As long as you meet those minimums, we are good to go. And I think in the near future, we're going to have a minimum for XLM too, should be 300,000. So if you have 300,000 XLM and you want institutional custody, irrespective of whatever other assets you have, I think we'll be able to provide that. We'll probably put out a notice on that here in the next week for people that meet that requirement as well. We have Ainsley says, "Hey Jake, love what you do. Can people from Canada use your platform, or do you have a Canadian affiliate?" So you'll have to set up a corporation. Aaron Grinhoss is our partner there in Canada. I would suggest reaching out to him and having a consultation and see what the tax implications are and the best way to do that. And then once you have that corporation set up, we would love to work with you at Digital Wealth Partners and provide, opportunities to generate returns and lines of credit and all the other fun stuff on your digital assets. And if you need his information, you can just reach out, just email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. Johnny, hey, what's going on, John? He says, hey, Jake, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. I would like to work with DAG, but I'm not a accredited investor. It's different, Johnny. Either way, excited to hear from you. If I were to pool my assets together with my family under an LLC, would that be acceptable as a AC if we met the monetary value? Don't suggest that. You could. You might look at a family limited partnership. That's also taxed the same way that a disregarded entity is. And you can move your assets in there in that manner without the tax implications. If you do a limited partnership, you're going to have problems. You're going to have tax implications, a change of basis and time frame. But if you do a family limited partnership and these people are family and you do want to pool your assets together, there is a way to do that without having to reset your basis or have tax issues. So that would be my suggestion. If you think that that's a good idea, just be aware that those other people that are participating on the LLC with you are going to have some control. They're going to have a board. They're going to have discussions. Even if you are the manager of that LLC, once things become appreciable, people tend to change their tune. So just make sure the operating agreement is structured the right way. I would meet with an attorney and get that done correctly. It's not something that we provide. We will do a single member LLC. That's what we specialize in for a holding company that manages your digital assets. But if you did want to reach out to an attorney to set that up, there's a few good ones we could recommend that we're happy to pass you along to or make introductions for, if that's of interest. And again, if you did meet the monetary minimums at that point, we would be able to work with you in that capacity. You would just need, you and whoever the countersigners were listed on the account. And again, you could, be the manager of that LLC, but you would have other interests there, and we would likely have to KYC all of those members when you were onboarding. So just a little more friction than it would be the other way, and you might just wait a little bit until you're accredited and things appreciate. And I think you'll meet the minimums in the near future anyway. So up to you, but yeah, happy to help you with that if it makes sense. And again, appreciate the super chat. We got Rob. He's hey Jake, dual U.S. citizen and Canadian citizen. Very cool. No residence until post appreciation. Should I have an LLC in both countries, or should I own one of the other? We have multiple people that have dual citizenship. So here's the deal. U.S. is citizenship based on the taxes. Canada is residency based on the taxes. If you want to go check out the video that I did with Aaron Grinhoss not too long ago here on the channel, we went over a lot of the ways that you can structure things for taxes. What's your partner in Canada's company's name? Grinhoss Law. So Aaron Grinhoss is the gentleman that I'm talking about in Canada. And again, if you need that information, you can just reach out to us, info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. And we're happy to pass that along to you. So it could make sense if you plan to move here to the U.S. It makes a lot of sense to go ahead and set up an LLC here if you already have citizenship, because you're going to get taxed here anyway. Canada does not recognize LLCs as limited liability corporations. They tax you twice. So they tax you once in the U.S. and then tax you again there in Canada. Sometimes a C Corp makes the most sense if you're going to reside in Canada. To have that there in Canada or in the US. But if you're going to move here post price appreciation and leave Canada, you wouldn't have that taxation there because you're no longer a resident. And having an LLC here could make a lot of sense. So I would reach out to, again, Aaron Grinhoss, have a conversation with him, and he would be able to help you through all of that. And you could also reach out to Digital Outlook. Dave over there, he is a US and Canadian citizen. And he could speak to a lot of that as well. He used to work for the government there in Canada and understands the tax law Probably not, maybe not quite as good as Aaron, but pretty close. A couple more super chats here. Rob says, Jake, sorry, bad typing. All good, man. I knew what you meant. We got AAJ. They say, JC, Max, and Mickle, thank you very much for sharing your info nonstop. Absolutely. Appreciate you for the support and the super chat and being here on a Monday night with the appreciation. We got another person here for $10 on the super chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Didn't ask a question, but if I see one later, I will definitely answer it. We got this person, Steve Flores says, hi, Jake. I heard that the Euro CBDC will run on the XRP rails soon. Have you heard anything about this? Have for years. I've had many conversations about the Euro and it being listed on the XRPL. So, yeah. Wish I could say more. Gavin 1 says, if U.S. government takes part of the escrow, sales, or gift, you know what? I think that there's going to be an audit of what the U.S. government already owns. And on the other side of that, there might be something that's uncovered that the U.S. government already owns when it comes to the escrow that was negotiated a long time ago because there's been no audits. So we'll see what ends up coming out on that side. But yeah, I think that the U.S. government definitely has a piece of the escrow. I just don't know which mechanism they're going to obtain it by. Onyx. Awesome. They say, hi, Jake. How does the RCT bring volume liquidity to XRPL, thereby increasing the price of our gem? So I don't know, RTC. So this is the Ripple something theory. I don't know. That's the domino theory. It's what I put together. ETFs. ETFs are going to be the main mechanism by which that drives a bunch of volume to purchase XRP that causes a supply shock. The other piece is like the Shane Ellis theory. I think both of these will play out at the same time, where there'll be just massive demand for XRP all at once, where there's a liquidity crisis in crypto and in traditional markets. And you're going to see Tether get sanctioned, frozen, and exchanges will require something to be able to settle transactions. They'll, drive up the price of XRP to be able to settle that and provide that. It's got the most pairs. It is the most liquid and real-time settlement option that they have. And same thing for the back end of the stock market. So the ETFs and then also the exchanges to cause a supply shock on XRP to be able to drive the price to the levels that people want it to be. Steve says, how do I get into the mastermind? Here you are, Steve. If you would like to check it out, just go to beyondbroke.com and you can put in the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. We'd love to have you in there. Talk about a lot of this and more, run private deals in the community and do many other things, including in-person meetups, which we have on the 23rd of this month here in Dallas, if that's something you're interested in. The day before, we have our big family office event on the 24th. So super excited to see everybody there for that one. This person says, buy and hold XRP will make you become crazy rich. I don't know if people are doing it, to become crazy rich. I think a lot of people just want to make sure that their family and their circle is well taken care of, and anything in excess of, what they can use or benefit from, they plan to give to charitable donations or create change in their community or for a cause that they really think is meaningful. At least I'll just say, I have a lot of conversations every single day, and that tends to be the premise of those conversations. So, which is really cool. Most people that are invested in this asset in particular are very good, genuine-hearted people that are not gluttonous or egotistical. They really want to make a difference for people in their lives, which is it's pretty cool. This person says, hey, Jake, when do you think the ETFs have to be approved by? May 21st is the deadline, I believe. We got Lucas with the super chat with the 589. Very nice. Appreciate you, sir. He says, hey, Jake, you've said that XRP won't be on centralized exchanges at some point. Yeah, I tend to agree. But what's to stop them from building middleware to the DEX? You could. And you'll need to. Like, you'll need to be able to swap in and out of XRP to be able to settle transactions, right? Middleware to the DEX to be able to source XRP, I guess is what you're discussing. You would need to be able to attract XRP. So you'd have to be exchanging it for something that somebody else needed through the DEX in order to aggregate it and then sell it. If there was a new stock that was listed or something else on the XRPL that you had access to before other people, and you could, swap it for XRP through the DEX, sure. But there'd have to be enough demand for whatever you had for counterparties that had the XRP to be able to get it through the DEX. Even a decentralized exchange, it's a market maker, right? So there has to be buyers and sellers, and it matches those. If there's not enough supply on the other side of it from people that are, providing it to you, you're still not going to be able to source it. But I'm with you. I think that there'll still be like a roundabout ways to be able to get XRP, but it's going to be few and far between once it's no longer listed on exchanges. And it's a great question, and I appreciate you bringing it up. We got JC. Thank you for the super chat. They say, Jake, Lee here from Commie Canada. Oh boy. I know, man. I'm sorry for all the stuff that you guys have going on up there. If y'all just become the 51st state, it'll all be fine. Recently got the boot from CNB. Yeah, no, man. For people that don't know, Caleb and Brown currently is, removing access for Canadians. He said, I want to sign up with DWP, but I'm concerned that having a C Corp in Canada may and risking potential seizure from government. Am I overthinking this? A little bit. I think so. So these are decentralized assets. They can't force you to give them up. They'd be held here in an American-based entity, and you would be the signer on the account, right? So a lot of people fear like government enforcement or sanctions or like imposed rules if your assets are held in a certain place. We can't do anything with them unless you consent. You are the signer on the account. If you don't sign, the assets don't go anywhere. And if you tell us to send them somewhere else, we send them somewhere else. You are in control. They are your assets. And that's how it's listed in our contracts. That can't be circumvented or changed. So I don't think that is overly problematic. The other thing I would say about Mark Carney, who is your current prime minister, is that he used to be the head of Bank of England. And when he talked about the US dollar no longer being the reserve currency. And he was kind of the first person that ever got away with that. There's a lot of people that have stated that over the years, and then they've been booted or removed. That didn't happen to him. And now he's at the helm of Canada. And you can think what you want about him. Like, I get it. Not everybody's favorite person. I understand that. However, I think he's very favorable on this asset in particular because of his background. So I don't think that there's going to be a situation where Canada, they can't freeze it. They can't do anything with it. They can't take it from you. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about it. Issued assets on the XRPL, different story. There's clawback. They can be frozen. There's a bunch of things you can do with issued assets, but XRP in particular, I wouldn't worry about. It's a good question, though. Let's see here. We cover a couple more super chats. About an hour in, we'll hang out here for another 30 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap it up this evening. We got Colin S. They say, hey, Jake. Hey, man. Caleb Brown no longer supports Canadian investors. Do you know another custody exchange for Canadians, which can also use Fireblocks? I don't. No. Why do you want to use Fireblocks, I wonder? We partner, we can work with Canadians at Digital Wealth Partners in Anchorage. You might look at Kraken. I don't know if that's a possibility for you or not, or Uphold. Those would be the other two that I would make suggestions for. But again, not super familiar with Canadian exchanges. So again, happy to work with you if you have the values to work with us, if that's something you're interested in. Let's see here. We got Johnny Lakers. What's up, man? He says, "Hola, amigo / legend." What's up, man? I already hold assets at Anchorage. What? Whom do I need to speak to get XLM address in the memo to send also into my account there? Thanks, brother. Don't think you need a memo. You should have your own independent wallet for XLM. You shouldn't need a memo or tag address to do that, but you could just reach out to whoever your advisor is, Johnny. And you could do that if you're not sure who your advisor is. I would just email support at digitalwealthpartners.net and say, hey, I'm a client looking for my advisor to be able to move my XLM into custody. Please help me. And they will be on it like white on rice. Michelina will get you to the right party or be able to help you herself. Thank you for the super chat and super excited to work with you. We have, is this Mickle? Oh, yeah. Mickle in the house. What? Was talking to him earlier today. We've got Group 1 Gavin says, can U.S. government set a price on XRP, or is that just a myth? It's an agnostic asset. You'd have to have like global buy-in from other parties or exchanges all at once to reprice something. It's not like, so as an example, when the US did that, they had the most gold. So the only way that makes sense to me is if the US government took over the escrow. If the US government took over the escrow, sure, maybe then they could do it. They're not going to need to do that though. The ETFs and the other stuff will be able to drive enough liquidity to XRP with supply shock to move it where they need it to be, and maybe even over that amount. And then once they start settling transactions at scale with it, it should hold the price there. There should be enough volume over the network to be able to maintain price stability at whatever value they need it to be. And they've already worked out the numbers for this stuff. They know how much available supply needs to be on the market to be able to hold it at a price that they want it to be. And that's where governments, I think, have agreed, whatever you want to call it, for the price to be in order for it to be able to back or restructure the debt that exists on the books. I was listening to Peter Schiff talk last night about everything's going to melt down and markets are never going to recover and the U.S. needs to do this and that. He has no concept of how crypto is going to be used to offset the debts, which is surprising to me because he's a historian. He understands gold at scale. He saw how they did that. Well, he wasn't around, but he for sure knows that they reset the price of gold in 1933 to be able to offset the debt. And then they moved it up over time again as they continued to print money and during Vietnam. And then eventually, obviously, they moved off of the gold standard on August 15th of 1971. Nixon removed us from the gold standard and said that the U.S. gold window was temporarily closing. And here we are 50 years later, and it still hadn't opened again. So anyway, you would think he would have better knowledge of that and probably see XRP, but he doesn't understand that either. A lot of really intelligent people, like really, really smart people, think that Bitcoin or gold is going to be what solves this. And that's just, neither one of those in reality have a chance of doing it. Let's see here. We've got Cole. Thank you for the super chat. He says, hey, Jake, as the price of XRP appreciates, will the required amount to work with you decrease? Yeah. at $10, we are going to go to like 1.1 million as the minimum. But beyond that, we'll just hold the minimum there. So as XRP goes to 20, 50, 100, $1,000, the amount of XRP that it takes to meet the 1.1 million will obviously be less and less over time as the value goes up, and that'll stay the minimum over the long term. There's a lot of reasons for that minimum, but that is where we're headed and who we'll be working with in the future. So look forward to working with you when you are over that amount, sir. Logan says, I was lucky to get it back. Lots of work was involved to prove everything. Glad you got your stuff back, man. God is good. We've got Clayton. He says, would we be able to sell on the exchange if there's no longer listed there? I think you'll there will be demand. It's supply that's going to be the issue. I'm highly confident that you'll be able to sell your XRP to counterparties, even if it's no longer listed on exchanges. And I'm pretty confident that it'll be actually above whatever the value is on the market. So like gold, there's a spot price for gold, and then there's a premium that you pay above the spot price. I think you're going to have the same thing with certain digital assets, and in particular XRP. I think you'll see once there's no longer supply and there's still significant demand, there'll be some type of premium that you get on that. Surgeon says, LOL, this guy still thinks XRP going to 4 digits this year. Marshall, I think you're going to be surprised. We'll see. This person says, stay hate Marshall. Look, there's math, right? And if it's hard for some people to do math, then I get that it's not easy for everybody. Dan B says, it's my belief that the U.S. will buy all of the XRP in the escrow and then raise the value considerably. Definitely a potential for that. They would have to buy the wallet. They couldn't buy the escrow. So for those that don't know, if you have XRP, you can escrow your own XRP. You can use the XRP toolkit. You can log in, Google it, XRP toolkit, and you can register your wallet there, and you can pull it up, and you can do stuff with your XRP. And one of those things is you can escrow it, and you can time lock it. So if you wanted to protect the XRP from yourself, or have it transferred to a different wallet on a specific date in the future, you can do that. That is a feature built into the XRPL, is the escrow. So right now, the U.S. government, even if they wanted to buy the escrow, they couldn't get it. There's 50 billion, 42 billion, whatever it is, locked up. $1 billion is released on the 1st of every month. And then sometimes Ripple sells that onto the market. Sometimes they re-escrow a portion of it. Most of the time, they only sell a small piece and re-escrow the rest of it. So that wallet is where that XRP goes when it's released from the escrow. That is what the U.S. government would buy, or they would take control of that wallet. So if you haven't ever played with that, I would recommend it. It's a cool feature. We have SAE says, Jake, what are your genuine thoughts on Velo? I think it could be huge. Maybe I'm wrong. Interested in your thoughts. I've done a video on it in the past. So Velo is a layer 2 on Hyperledger. It does peer-to-peer lending and securities transfer. Lower value stuff. Yeah, I think it could definitely do well. It's an interesting protocol. I think a lot of peer-to-peer transactions will happen on Hyperledger. The Soroban smart contracts that are on that network allow for a lot of those things to be built out. Other people are super bullish on Stronghold. I'm more bullish on Velo than I am on Stronghold personally. Yeah, there's a lot of people that I know that think that's going to do really well, and we'll see. We'll see what the adoption of it is. But the market application, the total addressable market, is a good size, so it could do very well. Bank's not going anywhere, but changes are coming. I would agree. All right. We're at the bottom of the list over here on YouTube. Let's go ahead and hop over here to TikTok. We'll run down a few questions here before we wrap it up this evening. Luke's physique. So for those that don't know, I'm a recovering bodybuilder. I was a bodybuilder for 10 years. Competed in bodybuilding, classic physique, and physique on the national level 3 times in classic physique. My last time I competed was 2019. I was 230 pounds at 5% body fat. I'm about 5'11". 6 foot on a good day. So anyway, Luke's physique over here looks like he competes in classic physique also. He says, what do you think will be the very first thing to make XRP price start moving fast to the upside? It's going to be the ETFs. We've got one going live tomorrow. It's not a spot ETF. It's a futures ETF, which is interesting. But I think once we start seeing the ETFs approved, the reverse carry trade unwind, Paul get elected and moved into the chair position, I think all of those things are going to be required here. And the settlement of the lawsuit, listing on the website for the SEC in a BlackRock ETF, mainly the BlackRock ETF. Like if I had to point to one thing in particular, that's what I'm waiting on. This person's asked, Jake, I'm talking to Jake Claver on WhatsApp. Is that you? No, I will never contact you on WhatsApp or Telegram or any of those things. Please block and report. Those are scams. If you see them in my comments, if they comment on your stuff, it's not me. I do not reach out to you. If you comment on my stuff, I'll respond, but I'm never going to take the conversation to WhatsApp or Telegram. I'm going to tell you to email our group, or to join the mastermind. If you're in the mastermind, you can message me and I will respond. I will never message you first. That's not me. Please, again, block, report. Those are scams. If anybody tells you to send your stuff to Bitflix, block, scam, delete. Anything with AI trading or anything like that, block, scam, delete. Digital Wealth Partners and Anchorage is the only stuff I deal with, and you're not even going to deal with me. I don't tell you to send your XRP anywhere. I'm never going to do that, or any other digital assets. We have a team. There are many things that you have to go through, KYB, KYC. There's accreditation if you want to participate in the fund. There's a lot of documentation that you have to sign. I am part of no DeFi, anything. No scams. It's all legit, real, actual stuff. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Scam, block, delete. I have 10K for XRP. When should I pull the trigger? This morning at, what time was it? Earlier today would have been a really good time, in my opinion. But having an allocation, I think, is a safe bet, not financial advice. If you want somebody to tell you when and how much XRP to buy, you can talk to Digital Wealth Partners, and they are SEC registered RIAs, and they will tell you, to buy XRP or whatever else they think is the best option. This person says, I literally have 5 Jakes and 5 Mickles trying to friend request me on Discord. Scam, block, delete, report, please report. I'm so tired of it. Let me see if there's any others here that I missed before we wrap it up this evening. There's a person that asked about transferring their assets into an LLC and what that looks like. So if you do want to set up an LLC, we can help you do that. You go to digitalfamilyoffice.io. We do everything all in for you. So registered agent, certificate of good standing, EIN letter, articles of incorporation or organization, we're about to add a bunch of other things as well. So we're going to set up virtual office to forward your mail. And there'll be some other things for your bank for setting up those accounts. The price is going to move from from $1,500 to $2,000 in the next couple weeks here. So if you want to get it done for $1,500, go ahead and do it. The code for that is 50 off 50 OFF DAG LLC. We normally charge $3,000. We're going to move it to $4,000. because we're going to include the virtual office and many other things. And again, we'll have the 50 off code where you can get it done if you're watching the lives or in the mastermind for $2,000 all in. But right now you can get everything done for $1,500. That includes the operating agreement and the step-by-step process to move your assets into the LLC. Walk you through everything, but the basic premise is the capital contributions page. You want to list the wallet address, the asset, so XRP, Bitcoin, ETH, whatever it is, the amount of the asset, and then the dollar amount on the day of transfer. And other people want to get cute and send from this wallet to that one and have you buy, another wallet. And we don't do any of that. We make it super simple, super easy. So if that interests you and you want to protect your assets and make sure that you are in position on the other side of price appreciation to take massive gains to your bank account, be able to leverage your assets and generate income with them and mitigate taxes, an LLC is a must for that. And again, we do it. This is one of the main things that we offer and we specialize in at Digital Ascension Group. So if you want to go check that out, the code again is 50 off 50OFF DAG LLC, and you get everything for $1,500, and that is going to move to $2,000 here in the next 2 weeks. So if you want to get in and get it done now, probably better to do so. Let's see. Here we go. We got I'm XRP. I like the name. They said, Jake, you mentioned earning returns on XRP with little to no risk with DWP. If things go south, how would XRP be lost? Also, just finishing up my LLC. So this is a good question. And there is some risk, right? Like, I'm transparent about that. It's not all sunshines and rainbows and guarantees and a bunch of BS, okay? We've mitigated all the counterparty risk. So the assets are held in institutional custody. You have full visibility on them all the time. They're in our possession. You see them. There's no risk there. The only risk is that the sub-advisors that we partner with that have 5+ year track records, almost 6-year track records, loses money over a quarter. That's never happened in their entire track record. On the income fund, their worst month is -1%. That's happened twice in their total history. So very unlikely, like very, very unlikely that they're ever going to lose money over a quarter, but it could happen. And if they did, they would take a little bit of XRP that's put up in the credit line or as the collateral to cover that loss. Our number one rule at Digital Wealth Partners is don't lose XRP. But a lot of people want to be able to pay for the fees that we have for institutional custody and get some money, on their assets so that they can start living their lifestyle and enjoying things and paying for stuff. And their XRP is not just sitting there, stale in a hard drive in their safe. So this is the way that you can put it to work. There is a very small amount of risk on a scale of 1 to 10. I would say the risk is probably somewhere between 1.5 and 1.9. If I was going to state it, like, it's very, very low risk for a 10 to 20% return is what we're targeting. It's not guaranteed. This is not a yield product. That's just, based on historical trends and the returns that these funds have been able to generate, what we anticipate paying out to clients over the next 12 months. So again, that is the risk that they have a negative quarter. We moved to quarterly distributions instead of monthly distributions to, again, mitigate that risk further because there have been a few negative months. And in order to smooth that out and make sure that we're generating returns and it's always positive, they've never had a negative quarter, and we don't anticipate them having a negative quarter moving forward. But that is the risk that could happen. So it's a really good question. There is a possibility, but very, very low. I would say, less than a 0.001% chance that they would have a negative quarter. And there could be losses. But, again, for 10 to 20% on your XRP, inside institutional custody, with it insured and it held in your own name, we will have other options in the near future that are yield-bearing products, things that we're working on with our checks and other institutions. But, that'll probably be available closer to the end of Q2. And, somewhere between 6 and 10% returns is what we're targeting on that. So the returns won't be as good as this, but there will be no risk. We got Michael Motorcycle. Hey, I say, what do you think of XDC? R3 partner with big banks, 3 quadrillion money possible. So actually, I'm going to make a video on this and the total addressable market cap for XDC and many other blockchains. That'll be a long video, but it's going to break down possible price appreciation for a lot of different blockchains and digital assets and the addressable markets that they're going to be going after. So commercial paper, debt notes, warrants, and trade finance is XDC. If it were to capture all of that, I think a $50 XDC is possible. Beyond that, I don't really see it. They are partnered with R3. R3 routes through XRP first, and XDC second. What is the most liquid and what has regulatory clarity and which one's going to be used in a certain application? It will be used, but I just don't think it's going to be as prevalent as a lot of people anticipate or maybe be telling you. But I've spoken at their I've spoken at their office in Dubai. I've met Atul and Ritesh a couple different times. We've worked with R3. If anybody's going to be able to tell you the real deal, it's not a whole lot of them. But yeah, I huge upside. I think we're working on some yield bearing products for XDC. But 3 quadrillion is not going to happen. You could have commodities that trade on XDC also. XDC could get commodities and futures for commodities. Well, I say that the futures would probably trade on a different chain, but the commodities themselves could move on XDC through trade finance, which is a pretty big market cap there. And if that's the case, then maybe it's a bit higher than $50. But there's some competition for that. So we'll see how it goes. But again, going to make a full video on it and I'll break it down for everybody. Living Legacy's been nice enough to post this again. So if you do need an LLC for your digital assets to make sure you're in position previous to price appreciation, again, the price is going to go up here in a couple weeks. So 50 off DAG LLC gets you everything that you need to be in position to take full advantage of price appreciation when it happens through an LLC and managing those assets, setting up your bank account, institutional accounts at exchanges and with digital wealth partners. That is the prerequisite or one of them to work with us. So again, would love to work with you guys in that capacity if it's something that you're interested in. A few others here. We got J.K. Richardson. He says, looking forward to the future. Thanks for all that you do. You've really helped me plan ahead. See, that's cool, man. Thank you for that. That's really all I want for people. A lot of people, man, I got this cough that I cannot get rid of. I feel like a lot of people are like the dog chasing the car. They know that they want the money. They know that they need the money, but they've never had the money before. Like the dog has never driven a car, but if it caught the car, can it drive it? Does it know how to do that? Does it need a driver? Does it need a professional driver? Could it pay for a professional driver? I think a lot of people are probably going to want to do that, myself included. I know enough to be dangerous about a lot of things, but I partner with the absolute best in certain industries for the things that they do. Our estate planner and tax attorney, best in class. CPAs, best in class. Accountants, best in class. Everybody that we partner with is specific for digital assets and knows exactly what they're doing within the confines of the laws and regulations that exist and continues to educate themselves every single day to make sure that they are the best in their craft. And that's who we want to partner with and provide for people. So hopefully that's who you're looking for. Hopefully you're finding people that you can add to your financial team before price appreciation happens to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success, and super glad to hear that you're being proactive and thinking ahead. And it's cool to know that, for me, XRP and a lot of these digital assets is a foregone conclusion. they're going to make a lot of money and they're going to make people very wealthy. And if that's the case, why not start working on those things now? So thank you for the kind words. We got Armani John. They say, hey, Jake, how's it going? It's going great, man. Enjoy being on these lives. I get a lot of fulfillment from this and appreciate your question. He says, last time you mentioned banks owned Flare as a result of the XRP snapshot. There are other claims banks didn't take part as a result of their XRP and custodial wallets. Your take. Here's who did not take advantage of the AXR or the snapshot. Ripple employees. And as far as I'm aware, everybody else got the snapshot. And if you can actually go back and look based on the total number of wallets that participated, how much Flare was distributed, and how many of those wallets participated. And you can see that the majority of wallets participated. And the ones that didn't were Ripple employees. So I'm pretty confident that the banks got it. Even if it was a non-custodial wallet that they were holding it in. I still think they got the Flare. Shadespot says, Jake, appreciate the super chat. Why do governments and institutions continue to buy Bitcoin? They don't see it as flawed, manipulated, leaning on Tether, and lacking utility. Why are they continuing to favor and buy it? I'm confused. Narrative. And it also needs systemic risk, right? So on the other side of it collapsing, there needs to be implications as systemic risk for Bitcoin, and why the SEC was right and they shouldn't have approved the ETFs, and why they need a catalyst to save the day and be able to settle things real time and de-risk from Bitcoin because it settles almost real time and stocks don't. It's positioned perfectly to be the catalyst for the adoption of XRP when it does collapse on itself. And that's why pension funds, and they've orchestrated all of this so that these institutions, have exposure to it, and it's going to cause systemic risk when it does collapse. It's all positioned on purpose. You saw Vanguard didn't participate at all. Vanguard, forbid anybody that worked with them to sell the XRP or the Bitcoin ETFs. There's a lot of institutions that have abstained from it, but many of them that need or are going to participate in the restructuring, I think, have an allocation. Go ahead and grab one more over here on TikTok, and then we'll wrap it up. This person's asked about quant. I don't know, man. I met a gentleman today that has a lot of quant. I want it to do well for people. Overledger, I think, will be used, but quant does not move value on Overledger. It just pays the fees for that. I'm not super bullish on it. There's a few other people that are technical that understand it probably better than me that are, and more power to them. I just haven't been able to discern why it's going to be valuable. And just transparently, I made a bunch of money on it. I bought it when it was like $7 and wrote it up to 150. So I could be just, I already made my money on it and I don't care anymore and I haven't figured it out yet, but I don't think that's the case. This person says Jake does all the research and we cheating off his paper. It's pretty good. Cool. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you all have a wonderful week, a wonderful evening. We'll see you guys back here Wednesday for the question and answer, the live Q&A again. Again, if you want to join the community and go check it out there, it's beyondbroke.com. You can put in the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the mastermind. Check it out, get access to the private deal flow and all the other fun stuff that we have there. And if you do want to go ahead and set up LLC to make sure that you are protected and ready to go on the other side of this appreciation, you just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io. And again, last week or two here to be able to get it for $1,500. The code to get that, the EIN, articles of organization, certificate of good standing, the template for the operating agreement, the SOP to be able to move all your assets in there, and eventually a lot of the other products that we're going to offer is 50 off 50 OFF DAG LLC. That's 50 off DAG LLC. Get you everything you need for a digital asset management company. to be able to manage your XRP or other digital assets when you take profit. And then last but not least, if you do want to work with digital wealth partners, get institutional grade custody and access to returns on your XRP, you can go to digitalwealthpartners.net and go to the contact us page. You do have to have an LLC, a trust, or an IRA to be able to work with them. And your assets do have to be north of $500,000 in current value, or you have to have at least 100,000 XRP in the bank to work with them as well. So with that, again, hope you guys have a wonderful evening. We'll see you guys on the next one. And until then, God bless.